Revealed. After being excluded from Christmas dinner, an incredible twist transformed everything. Gabriel tightened the last bolt on the rusty old pickup as the wind howled outside the garage. He had 4 tires stacked against the wall and a toolbox overflowing with memories of better days. Each clink of metal echoed the cracks in his heart. Christmas came again, but this year held a sharper pain, a festering wound, all thanks to a simple text. That morning, his sister's words had flickered on his screen, images of smiling faces gathered around a table adorned with festive trimmings. His breath caught, and bitterness crawled up his throat. The family he had fought so hard to feel a part of had pushed him out once more. For Gabriel, navigating the heavy emotional terrain was harder than fixing a worn-out transmission. In his late 30s, he had prayed for connection, each year hoping for reconciliation. Yet here he was, alone in his cluttered garage, battling the infernal ping of inadequacy. His daughter, Lily, hummed softly in the other room, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within him. He longed to present a facade of strength to her, but the resentment simmered like oil on a hot pan. "Why do they always leave me out?" he muttered to himself, grimacing as he spotted his own reflection in a window streaked with grease. Fear crept in, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough for either his family or his daughter. He felt like a ghost haunting memories that might never be restored. He decided he would make this Christmas special for Lily, no matter how desolate he was inside. "Hey, sweetheart," he called upstairs, swallowing hard. "Why don't you find something fun to do? Maybe a movie or—" Before he could finish, he heard her footsteps retreating, the thrum of her excitement fading into the quiet. As Gabriel settled into a forgotten chair, cradling a lukewarm cup of cocoa, he let despair wash over him. What was there to celebrate? The Christmas lights outside twinkled mockingly, bright in the night sky, as if to remind him how dim his own spirit felt. He reached for his phone again, but he hesitated. He didn't want to drown in more family snapshots. Disappointment wrapped around him tight as he thought about the struggles that had driven them apart. Voices raised over financial ruin, confrontations over perceived failures. Why had love twisted into such disdain? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. When Lily bounded back down, journal in hand, dust danced in the golden light behind her. She had stumbled upon her grandfather's journal, and curiosity enveloped them both. As he flipped through aging pages, the anguish slipped, the inscribed dreams of an unfulfilled artist, buried but alive in ink. Each word sparked something long dormant in Gabriel's chest. The vision of a life lived without regret began to take shape. But just as hope reframed their holiday, the anticipation that surged within him also brought forth dread. As Christmas unfolded, a whirlwind of emotions spun inside his mind. The exhilaration of sharing art, the dread of judgment from the very people who cast him aside. Would they see him, or would he remain invisible? As this internal conflict crescendoed, Gabriel sensed the fragility of the bond he was cultivating with Lily, teetering alongside each tentative step he planned to take toward his family. As the clock ticked toward midnight, he could feel the heat rising, the urge to fight back against the expectations of silence and exclusion, a tension surging through him. With one powerful breath, he resolved to confront the ghosts of his family history. Would they listen? Would they understand? Just as he gathered the courage to speak into the suffocating silence, the door swung open, revealing a figure from the past whose presence sent a jolt through the room. All eyes turned, disbelief hanging heavy in the air. This unexpected arrival could shatter his world or illuminate a path to forgiveness. Gabriel barely registered the figure that stood framed in the doorway. The familiar outline sent a rush of conflicting emotions coursing through him: anger, fear, longing. His heart raced as he struggled to find words amidst the disbelief engulfing him. "Mom?" The voice that finally escaped his lips sounded fragile, a mere whisper drowned by the cacophony of emotions swirling around him. He could hardly believe that after years of separation, she had chosen this moment, the most vulnerable time of year, to re-enter his life. His mother's eyes glistened like winter frost, uncertain yet probing, searching for connection through the cracks of their history. Where had she been all these years? Questions crowded his mind, but the reality of her presence was an unexpected balm. He felt something shift, a fragile awakening within him. "Gabriel," she breathed, as if afraid the weight of her words would break the fragile spell. The room filled with a brittle tension, the unspoken words of decades hung like a chandelier ready to shatter. Lily observed the exchange, her innocence sharp against the backdrop of uncertainty. She sensed the charged atmosphere. Her gaze flicked between her father and grandmother, the familial bond trying to weave itself back together. Gabriel realized he needed to act, not just for himself, but for Lily. He had promised to make things special for her, yet now the stakes leaped to an entirely new level. Why now? He finally probed, his voice steadying as he reclaimed some measure of control. Why, after all this time? His mother took a deep breath, the tremor of nostalgia lacing her reply. "I didn't know how to reach out, Gabriel. Every year felt harder than the last. I thought that maybe giving you space was the right thing, but I see now that it was a mistake." Tears brimmed in her eyes, revealing the vulnerability he had never encountered in her before. Instead of retreating into his fortress of resentment, a flicker of empathy sparked within him. He wrestled with the walls he'd built, expectations limiting growth and healing. After all, hadn't he longed for this chance, even while staying buried in bitterness? For the first time, he considered their shared pain, their fractured family, the regrets, the silent years. He could either let the cycle of hurt continue or begin the daunting march toward reconciliation. "Maybe we can talk." The words escaped him, as hesitant as the budding hope inside. An unexpected quiet enveloped them as Gabriel explored the possibilities unfolding in his mind. Could he allow himself to confront these feelings? The thought of exposing the raw wounds scared him, yet something deeper urged him to accept the challenge. He turned and met Lily's eyes. Her innocent curiosity echoed his own uncomfortable apprehension, but also her growing understanding that family meant navigating complexities, not avoiding them. As they sat together, a family of 3, with a history looming over them, Gabriel felt a fissure of connection stabbed through the fog of despair. It seemed fragile, perhaps even fleeting, but it was a start. He could almost hear the ghost of his grandfather's voice from those pages they'd shared earlier, encouraging him to embrace risk, to pursue a life steeped in authenticity. "Let's not let fear dictate the next steps," he said, surprising himself with his conviction. The resolve flooded his veins, washing away the bitterness. This was more than a moment. It was a chance to forge a narrative not mired in exclusion, but rather built on understanding. But just as Gabriel began to visualize the ink of their new story swirling together, a loud knock echoed through the house. His heart plummeted. The reality of more unresolved issues crashed down on him. As tension washed over them again, Gabriel wondered who else could burst into their fragile moment of connection and what challenges they might bring to the surface. Would this be a moment of terror or triumph? As the door swung open wide, his pulse quickened. The universe felt like it was shifting once again. Would they find resolution, or had they merely opened a Pandora's box of deeper truths? The door creaked open, revealing an unexpected figure, Jake, Gabriel's estranged brother. The tension in the air thickened, almost palpable. With his familiar scowl and defiant posture, Jake had always embodied the unresolved conflict of their family, an embodiment of the choices Gabriel had avoided for years. Here he stood, charged with the potential for either healing or yet another fracture. "Didn't expect to see you here," Jake remarked, his voice grating against the fragile peace that had just begun to settle. Gabriel felt a mixture of annoyance and longing. He hadn't known how much he had missed the sense of unspoken rivalry until now. "Neither did I," Gabriel replied, a hint of bitterness threading through his words. Yet, as he glanced at Lily, who was clueless to the whirlwind of emotions surrounding them, he softened. This was not merely about the past battles. It was about forging a path forward for her sake. Jake's gaze turned to their mother, and Gabriel felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. How could his brother waltz back into their lives after years of silence, as if he owned the place? This was a moment for growth, not more conflict. "Let's all just sit down and talk," their mother intervened, her voice steadier than before. She stepped into the chaos, a beacon of calm trying to unite them. Gabriel admired her resolve, but the resentment simmered beneath the surface. This was a conversation they had all evaded for too long. "Talk?" Jake echoed, drawing closer. "What's there to say? You left us, Mom. You don't just get to come back and expect everything to be fine." The accusation hung there, cutting through the air like a knife. It echoed Gabriel's own insecurities. Did he really have the capacity to mend these relationships, or was he destined to repeat the same patterns of resentment and sadness that littered their family history? "Maybe we should have it out," Gabriel suggested before he could stop himself, his voice heavy with defiance. "All of us, lay everything on the table." Lily shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift from fragile reunion to potential confrontation. It was a precarious situation, but Gabriel felt a rush of determination. Maybe this was the opportunity he had secretly yearned for, to face not only his mother and brother, but also the buried parts of himself that were desperate for acknowledgement and resolution. "We're here now." His voice grew firmer, more decisive. "Let's not miss this chance." As the conversation unfolded, Gabriel took a breath, mentally preparing for the emotional tumult that could ensue. It was time to confront the reality of their fractures, the hurts that needed reckoning. He had quietly rehearsed for far too long. Now he needed to act. The stakes were no longer solely personal. They involved the very essence of who he wanted to become for Lily and for himself. Their mother's gaze lingered on him, a mixture of gratitude and sadness reflected in her eyes. It was now or never. Gabriel glanced at Jake, who seemed taken aback, but slowly nodded, not exactly ready, but willing to commit to the challenge. Yet, even amidst this moment of reckoning, a question nagged at Gabriel. Could he, entrapped by years of doubt, truly shape the narrative he envisioned? Despite the looming specter of old grievances, there was a flicker of clarity igniting within him. The air crackled as they settled around the dining table, and just as he took a breath, ready to break the silence with the truths that had gone unshared for too long, the doorbell rang again. An eerily familiar sense of foreboding washed over him. What new arrival awaited on the other side? Would this intrusion further unravel their intentions, or could it somehow bring them closer to healing? With an unexpected sense of urgency propelling him forward, he resolved to embrace whatever revelation lay ahead. The door swung open, revealing a tall figure, the tension escalating as Mia, Gabriel's estranged wife, stepped into view. Her presence encased the room in uncertainty, like a thundercloud rolling in just as they had begun to find their footing. The joyful anticipation Gabriel had felt moments before now felt like sand slipping through his fingers. "Surprise," Mia said, her tone carrying an edge Gabriel had not forgotten. It was a half-hearted greeting, yet it hung there thickly, demanding attention. "Why are you here?" Gabriel's voice was steadier than he felt, conscious of Jake's disbelief and his mother's embattled expression. Mia was a reminder of his failures, of how he had so often been the one to retreat instead of face the music. "I came because, well, I wanted to see if you're okay," she said slowly, casting a glance toward their mother and brother. For a moment, her facade flickered. Was it concern he saw, or something deeper? Gabriel felt a rush of emotions, resentment, longing, guilt, colliding in a tempest that clouded his thoughts. Here was yet another layer of complication added to an already fractious evening. He had long since learned that Mia's motives were rarely straightforward. Lily, sensing the palpable tension, shifted her gaze from Gabriel to Mia, her wide eyes reflecting confusion. Gabriel knelt beside his daughter. "Stay close to me, okay?" he whispered, his protective instincts igniting. Mia took a breath, her gaze darting between the brothers as if assessing the conflict simmering in the room. "Perhaps," she started, but Jake interrupted. "Why don't you just leave? You've caused enough disruption already." The hostility in Jake's voice could cut through steel, igniting old flames of conflict. Gabriel's heart quickened. Jake had never forgiven Mia for their split. Her presence undoubtedly reignited the fractious past. "Stop," Gabriel snapped, feeling an unexpected swell of protectiveness toward Mia. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about facing our past, all of it." The words poured forth, more confident than he felt. Here he stood, grappling with the intertwining legacies of his family and the life he had built with Mia, complex and conflicted, yet undeniably crucial to his understanding of self. Mia's brows knitted together as she opened her mouth to protest, but he raised a hand, staving off her argument. "We're all here for a reason, Mia. For once, can we stop running?" The room fell silent, the air heavy with unspoken grievances and the weight of lost time. Gabriel felt the challenge of the moment surge within him like a tide. He had been that proverbial deer in headlights for too long. The time had come to confront not only the memories of his relationship with Mia, but also what his family had been depriving him of through years of avoidance. Emotions writhed inside him, yearning for freedom. "We owe it to each other to be honest," he implored, looking from Mia to Jake and back to their mother. "This isn't just a moment to be arranged, it's a chance to reset." As he spoke, Gabriel felt a breakthrough stirring within, a desire to reclaim the narrative of his life. His relationships could be a sanctuary rather than a battleground, if only they could face the truth without flinching. Yet, could he maintain that focus amid the chaos unraveling into the center of his being? "Gabriel, don't!" Mia's warning cut through his thoughts, but he pressed on, conviction hardening in his chest. "Why not? Aren't we tired of hiding? Tired of skirting around the issues?" The urgency in Gabriel's voice echoed around the room, hanging as an unanswered question. Just then, the ringing of his phone shattered the renewed focus, an unexpected distraction. The screen revealed a name from the past that sent a shiver down his spine. Nora, his high school mentor, someone he had not spoken to in years. This was a call he never expected to receive. With everything on the line, the weight of family reconciliations, a possible revival of his marriage, and the mingling of paths he dared not tread, Gabriel felt the call highlighting the disarray of his life. What new revelation could Nora possibly hold for him? Would her voice bring clarity or further complicate an already tangled web? Gabriel's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the phone. The reverberations of the past echoed in his mind, and he felt the weight of his choices closing in around him. He couldn't ignore the layers of significance wrapped around that name. Nora had always seen something in him that he struggled to recognize in himself. "Excuse me," he murmured, his voice tight with the need to break from the charged atmosphere. He stepped away from the group, the uncertain eyes of his family watching him as he swiped to accept the call. "Gabriel?" Nora's voice came through, warm yet tinged with cautious curiosity. "I wasn't sure if you'd remember me." "Of course I do," he said quickly, his heart racing. The nostalgia of her mentorship sparked something dormant inside him. "It's been a long time. How are you?" "I've been following your journey," she said. "I heard you're going through some changes in your life, family stuff. I thought you might need someone to talk to." Her words tapped into the chaos swirling within him. It echoed louder than his own thoughts. Perhaps this was the moment to confront the cracks in his life, piece by piece. "It's complicated. The past keeps surfacing, and I don't know how to navigate it." "Sometimes the past holds the key to our future," Nora replied thoughtfully. "You've always had a knack for seeing the big picture, Gabriel. Do you still paint?" The question ignited a spark of forgotten passion. He recalled days spent lost in color, transferring emotions onto canvas. It felt as if a part of his identity had dimmed ever since life veered off course. "Not in a long time," he admitted, disappointment tracing his words. "Then maybe it's time to rediscover that part of yourself," she encouraged. "Art can be healing, you know. It could help you make sense of your feelings." The notion lingered with a curious resonance. Creating had been an escape, a channel, and maybe, just maybe, it could restore harmony to the turmoil brewing in his life right now. Gabriel stood still, thoughts racing. "I'll think about it. I never considered how much I needed that outlet again." "You could also bring some of your family into it," Nora suggested. "Maybe they need a way to express what's unsaid, too." The implication hung between them, reminding him of the simmering tensions in the other room. "Art therapy? I don't know if they'll be open to it," he said, his anxiety nagging at the edges of his resolve. "But it might work." "What about that children's project you mentioned? It could be a good bridge," she pressed gently. "Creating something together can mend bonds." His thoughts raced back to a community program he had shelved during difficult months with Mia. In the flurry of personal responsibilities, he had forgotten how engaging others through creativity could instill a sense of unity. "Yeah, Just remember," Nora interjected softly, "you're stronger than you think. Don't let fear dictate your relationships. Be brave." Gabriel nodded, though she couldn't see him. "That's solid advice. Thank you." As he ended the call, the contours of his family loomed large again, unresolved and charged with potential. With a newfound determination, he turned back, feeling as if pieces of himself were starting to align. "Let's make this a progressive moment," he declared, surprising even himself. "Mia, Jake, Mom, we need to have a conversation about our past, and there's a project I'd like to propose." The tension hadn't lifted, but a flicker of possibility ignited beneath the surface. Maybe he could bridge the chasms of their unspoken emotions through the power of creation. Gabriel, Mia began, her brow furrowing. Are you sure this is the right time? He met her gaze, steadied by a clarity he hadn't felt before. We can't pretend any longer. It's time to confront our truths together. The looming confrontation with his family felt pivotal. The web of dynamics spun tightly around their histories. Could they truly find common ground amidst their fears and misgivings? Just then, his phone buzzed with another message. This time, it was an image from a local gallery announcing an upcoming exhibit showcasing work of forgotten artists, a personal calling, a chance to share his voice, an invitation teetering on the edge of indecision. Would moving forward mean risking everything he had built, or could it catalyze a deeper understanding? The path lay uncertain before him, but perhaps he was ready to take a step, no matter how fraught with conflict that step might be. Yet the air crackled with expectation as he awaited their responses, an uncertainty punctuated by the profound strength of confronting the barriers of the past and the future. Would they join him in this venture, or would he be met with resistance once again? Gabriel's heart thudded steadily against his ribcage as he immersed himself in the heavy silence of the room. The weight of his family's gaze felt almost tangible, each pair of eyes echoing his own unspoken doubts. Would they understand? He steeled himself, the faint echo of Nora's encouraging words threading through his mind, urging him to stand firm in this uncertain moment. Art therapy, he repeated, his voice breaking the stillness like an unexpected stroke of a brush on a blank canvas. It could help us find our way back to each other. Mia's brow remained furrowed, skepticism curling her lip. You really think a project can fix us? Her voice rose slightly, revealing the tension that ran like a current beneath the surface. I think it could be a start, he replied, locking eyes with his sister. Within those depths lay years of shared laughter, memories, and buried conflicts. We've been stuck in the past, carrying old wounds that never healed properly. Jake, usually the peacemaker, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. And what if it doesn't work? What if we just end up arguing more? He voiced the fear hovering in the air. Then at least we'll be saying it out loud instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Gabriel hesitated, weighing his next words. We need to express ourselves, all of us. Let's take this chance to let go of the unresolved and create something together. For a moment, their responses hung, an amalgam of hesitation and lingering resentment smothering the space. Yet beneath it all, he sensed the pulsing of potential. The ghosts of their past loomed around them, but perhaps speaking openly could light a path through the shadows. What would this project even look like? Mia eventually asked, her tone softening slightly, curiosity sneaking through her reticence. Gabriel's mouth curled into a slight smile, igniting the flicker of inspiration sparking within him. We could start by painting our memories. Each of us could do a piece representing a moment, good or bad, that shaped us, everything that makes us who we are. What if we can't find anything good? Jake interjected, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his voice. The fragility was palpable. Gabriel nodded, appreciating the weight of that honesty. Then we paint that too. No filters, just raw emotion on the canvas. It's about being brave enough to face our truths together. Mia leaned back in her chair, contemplating the idea. It's definitely unconventional, she murmured, slowly weighing the possibilities. I think it's brilliant, came their mother's soft voice from the end of the table, surprising them all. Art has always been a bridge between us, hasn't it? I remember when you two were kids, losing yourselves in your drawings. It might just remind us what we loved about each other. Her words hung heavily, yet charged, cultivating an intangible trust. For the first time, Gabriel felt a crack in the wall that had long isolated them. A sudden rush of courage propelled him to pull out his phone again, intending to revisit the gallery's announcement. I want to submit something for that upcoming exhibit, he declared, surprise weaving through their expressions. But you haven't painted in years, Mia commented, though with less resistance now, a hint of intrigue replacing skepticism. Exactly. Maybe it's time to change that. The decision welled up inside him, exhilarating and terrifying. If I can work through my past, then we can too. Jake swallowed hard, uncertainty mingling with budding hope. You really think our messed up family can create something worth sharing? Gabriel turned to him, letting go of any lingering doubt. If we work through our fears, then yes, maybe drawing the truths we've buried can help us see each other again. His determination felt infectious. The air shifted, furrowing brows loosening into contemplative smiles. The unspoken barriers between them began to shimmy, contours of their past softening. But just as a wave of hope surged through him, the quiet dread settled in anew. What if, on the canvas, the truths they brought forth became too painful to confront? Each stroke could unravel stories they weren't ready to tell. As Gabriel's heart raced ahead of him, he realized another presence had emerged, uncertainty in rising clarity. In this fragile moment of potential, perhaps the act of creating could unveil not only new relationships, but also deeper truths about himself. The question loomed, sleek and sharp. Was he prepared to lay bare the remnants of his identity he had buried for so long? With the echo of new possibilities stirring under the weight of skepticism, the prospect of sharing his inner struggles felt both thrilling and menacing. In that charged space, an unexpected resolve pulsed through him. They stood on the precipice of something transformative or devastating. Yet he understood one undeniable truth. The moment of creation loomed, and with it, the daunting prospect of confronting not only familial tensions, but the fragments of his own fractured spirit. What awaited them inside those paint-stained walls, and would the act of creation risk unraveling the very fiber holding them together? The sun dipped lower beyond the horizon as Gabriel prepared for the evening's gathering in the makeshift studio he had set up in his old garage. The walls, once adorned with childhood posters, now provided a blank canvas, purging remnants of the past. He could almost smell the paint fumes mingling with the scent of nostalgia, each swirl of color waiting to encompass their shared experiences. But as the evening crept closer, unease bubbled beneath the surface. Standing alone, Gabriel stared into the room where canvases waited like blank pages, each ready to be transformed into a reflection of the family's collective history. The idea of exposing those buried memories, the laughter and the lingering shadows, took root in his mind, demanding attention. Suddenly, he viewed each canvas as a battleground, not just for artistic expression, but for emotional reckoning. He took a deep breath, aware that this artistic journey went beyond paint and brush. Deep down, the reality struck him. He had to confront his own insecurities before guiding his family through their stormy tides. Were his intentions genuine enough to evoke vulnerability in them? As he arranged the space, he envisioned each member arriving. Mia would bring her skepticism, protective like an overcast sky, while Jake's trepidation would hover quietly like distant thunder. They needed him to be steadfast, but the burden felt heavy on his shoulders. Gabriel touched the edges of the brushes lined up like soldiers. He recalled his last attempt at creating a piece of art. It was an unfinished effort, a canvas filled with childish strokes that had never seen the light of day. Would he be able to push through? The mere thought of diving deep into those unfinished emotions sent shivers down his spine. But retreating into silence was no longer an option. The clock ticked, and a knot tightened in his stomach. He pulled out his phone yet again, reading and rereading the takeaway from the documents Nora had sent about artistic expression. It wasn't just about technique, it was about authenticity and the catharsis that followed. Still, the haunting thought lingered. Had he, in his own art, truly allowed himself to be honest? As his family arrived, the atmosphere thickened with unspoken words. Gabriel caught Mia eyeing the scattered paints with both curiosity and wariness, while Jake stood beside her, fiddling with the edge of his t-shirt, overtly anxious. Here they were, standing on the brink of emotional exposure. "All right," Gabriel finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Let's start with our memories. We all bring something different to the table. We can take turns sharing our thoughts and then finding ways to express them visually." Mia crossed her arms defensively. "Are you sure this isn't just a way for you to project your feelings onto us?" Her challenge hung heavily in the air. "No, I want this to be a release for everyone, for us," he replied, a hint of fervor creeping into his tone. "It's not just about me, it's about changing the way we communicate." Jake stepped closer to the easel, fist clenched at his side. "And what if we find truths that are too painful to express?" Gabriel gazed at them both, nothing but sincerity reflecting in his eyes. "Then we face them together. That's the point of this. Pain can be transformative too. I don't want us to paint just pretty memories. I want us to be real." The room felt charged, as if the very walls were absorbing the tension. Mia shifted uncomfortably, while Jake opened his mouth to speak, pausing as if waiting for the light to flicker. But before Gabriel could brace himself for their potentially volatile responses, the garage door creaked open. The unmistakable presence of their mother surged through the space, bringing warmth and an unexpected sense of safety. "What is going on in here?" she asked, squinting at the makeshift art station set up before them. Gabriel decided right then to let go, to let her in as well. This wasn't just about him and his siblings. The entire family needed opportunity for healing. "Mom, we're starting a painting project to express ourselves and share our memories," he explained, feeling the gravity of his choice to include her. "We want to confront our pasts and maybe even find a way to move forward as a family." In that moment, Gabriel understood that the act of creation carried not just the weight of artistic purpose, but the combined potential for discovery, change, and the redemption of long-buried wounds. Was he brave enough to dive deeper into his own fears, even with his mother's presence now looming so close? The air shifted within the garage, thick with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The walls stood ready to bear witness to their journey into the unknown, and as Gabriel picked up a brush, he had to ask himself, was he prepared for the ride ahead? And how deep would the revelations cut? In that charged moment, a single truth resonated brightly. The night held secrets waiting to be unveiled, and paths that might lead to their collective salvation or their complete unraveling. As the garage door fully opened, the warm glow of the setting sun streamed in, illuminating the faces of the family gathered in that makeshift studio. Gabriel took in the moment, grounding himself in the realization that this was the beginning of a tumultuous yet necessary journey for them all. Each of them teetered on the brink of vulnerability, a rawness that both terrified and excited him. His mother stepped further into the room, her warm smile briefly melting the tension. "I didn't expect to see you all here, painting together," she chimed, her voice carrying a mix of surprise and delight. Gabriel sensed the playful familial banter that had once filled the walls of their home beginning to stir again, but it was overshadowed by heavier thoughts. What if this attempt fractured them instead of healing their wounds? His mind pinged with self-doubt, but he pressed forward. "Mom, we're not just painting, we're sharing memories and feelings. We believe this could bring us closer." Her brow furrowed slightly, revealing a hint of the concern hidden beneath her maternal instincts. "Are you prepared for that? Some memories aren't easy to share." "My whole life has been about avoiding them," he admitted. feeling a flicker of vulnerability ignite in his chest. Maybe it's time to face those shadows. Mia and Jake exchanged glances, still standing somewhat apart. Gabriel felt the distance between them, a physical representation of their emotional struggles. If he was going to initiate this process, he needed to address that chasm head-on. "Let's not just dive in and create art," he proposed, his voice steadying as he spoke out of conviction. "Let's share what we've been afraid to confront. This moment, it's a chance to uncover truths about ourselves and each other. Those secrets are part of our stories." Mia uncrossed her arms slowly, but didn't step closer. "What if it hurts too much, Gabriel? What if we ruin the little connection we have left? Or what if it brings us to genuine connection?" he shot back, the intensity of the moment sparking adrenaline in his veins. "Hiding from pain hasn't worked, has it? We can decide to let the canvas hold our stories instead of carrying them silently. We need to let the past breathe." Jake's eyebrows knitted together, and he spoke for the first time, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then what do we do when we face something we can't bear?" Gabriel looked at his brother, eager to convey his resolve in that moment. "We don't have to do it alone. No more running away or putting up walls. We talk through it, paint it if we must, but we do it together." Feeling the shifting atmosphere, Gabriel took a deep, invigorating breath and guided the family towards a large canvas propped against the wall. "How about we start by drawing something that represents where we are right now? No holds barred, allowing our emotions to flow freely onto the canvas." The room simmered with tension, but he could sense the foreign idea taking root, a glimmer of hope creeping into the shadows of apprehension. Gabriel reached for the brushes again. Let it be messy. Let it be real. As they began to pick colors, Mia tentatively dipped a brush into a deep blue, while Jake chose a vibrant scarlet. Gabriel watched as they retreated into their thoughts, a mixture of fear and determination mingling in the air. His mother stood by his side, hesitant but intrigued, ready to confront her own buried emotions alongside them. Gabriel, however, sensed his own unresolved feelings lurking just beneath the surface. What if the act of confronting them through this process proved to be too overwhelming? What truths lay just beneath that canvas? He steadied his grip on the brush, knowing that it wasn't just the others he had to learn to guide, it was himself, too. Courage sparked at the back of his mind, a whisper amplifying the doubt. The night was falling fast, and shadows began to creep in around the edges of the room. The air crackled with potential, fraught with uncharted paths. As Gabriel stepped back to observe their emerging creation, an unsettling thought struck him. Would he really be able to manage the truths they might unearth? And as they began sharing their first strokes, cloaked in excitement and fear, a realization dawned on him. This was only the beginning. He had to delve into his own past, damaged outlets and all. The question loomed ominously. What would happen when he confronted the painful secrets buried beneath his own skin? With a surge of ambition, he steadied himself for the unknown. The night had begun, and only the future knew where this journey might lead. Little did he anticipate that the first stroke of paint could peel back layers he had long sought to forget. Gabriel's heart raced as he watched Mia and Jake sink into the rhythm of the moment. Each brushstroke was an act of defiance against the silence that had filled their lives for far too long. The room pulsed with emotion, tension wrapped in anticipation, and he felt the weight of unspoken words press against his chest. He turned his focus to the canvas, barely visible beneath the defined lines of color. The deep blue Mia had chosen seemed to cast shadows, while Jake's vibrant scarlet clawed at the edges. As he took a step forward with his brush, he became acutely aware of his breathing, each intake filled with possibility and dread. He had initiated this. It was his idea to confront the past, but could he handle the reality of what might emerge? The longer he watched, the more he realized that they needed to engage the deeper emotions buried within, the same emotions that had caused the rift and pushed them away from each other. Were they brave enough to peel back the layers? He bit his lip, feeling a swirl of anxiety and excitement as he picked a shade of muted gray and began making hesitant strokes across the canvas. This, he decided, would represent his own shadows, his uncertainties about facing the truths lurking just beyond his reach. "What does that color mean to you?" Mia asked softly, pulling her gaze away from her own work. His mind raced. "It's the remnants of pain," he half whispered, surprised at his own honesty. "It's what I've avoided." Mia hesitated, her light eyes searching his for understanding. "I can see that. It's like a shadow waiting to surface," she commented, though Gabriel sensed her uncertainty about inviting such darkness into their collective expression. "What does that color mean to you?" Mia asked softly, pulling her gaze away from her own work. His mind raced. "It's the remnants of pain," he half whispered, surprised at his own honesty. "It's what I've avoided." Mia hesitated, her light eyes searching his for understanding. "I can see that. It's like a shadow waiting to surface," she commented, though Gabriel sensed her uncertainty about inviting such darkness into their collective expression. Jake dropped his brush and stepped toward Gabriel, his voice steady yet emotionally charged. "And what about the tears, Gabriel? The frustration? You can't just color it over," he accused gently, but there was weight in the accusation. "What if there's more? What if it's not just the past? What if it builds into something we don't expect?" The question hit him harder than he anticipated. For a moment, Gabriel contemplated the enormity of the past as a living entity. What did it mean to confront something that had absorbed so much of their lives? Could they transform those shadows into something empowering? A thought seized him. We share what we truly feel. No embellishments, just pure honesty. The pain, the anger, the confusion, all of it can flow through the brush, he proclaimed, his voice rising with genuine fervor. Let the canvas absorb it all, and maybe we can transform it into a story we control instead of one that haunts us. His words sparked a flicker of recognition in Mia's eyes. She stepped closer, cautiously placing her hand on his shoulder. "But what if we can't control it? What if it spirals out of control?" Gabriel met her gaze, grounding himself in the moment. It was the fear of the unknown, his own anxiety staring down at him, but he couldn't retreat. "Then we face it together. We have to embrace the chaos, or it will always loom over us." The atmosphere shifted, charged with a new fervor as they resumed painting, layering emotions onto the canvas. With each stroke, they dug deeper into childhood memories laced with laughter and pain. When Jake added swirls of orange to represent moments of joy, Gabriel felt the knot in his chest begin to loosen, the canvas becoming a testament to their evolution as a family. But just as Gabriel started to feel a rhythm with the others, an unsettling realization emerged. He had avoided an entire chapter of his life, the one that lay buried beneath the surface. This creative act wasn't just about them. It was about confronting his own buried memories. Would he have the courage to unearth those demons? He could sense the swelling tide of his past creeping into the present, images and feelings yearning for acknowledgement. "Guys," he hesitated, the weight of unsaid words about to unfurl from his lips. "There's something I've never told you." As he grappled with the decision to reveal his hidden truths, sensations of fear and determination washed over him. It was now or never. The moment of truth was teetering on the edge of vulnerability, and he could feel that the journey to healing was just beginning to unravel. Would they be ready for what lay ahead when the final layers were peeled back? Gabriel took a deep breath, the tension in the air palpable. He had initiated this project not just to bridge the gap between his family members, but also to confront the ghosts clinging to his past. It was time to shine a light on the corners he had long concealed. "I want to talk about what happened with Mia," he finally said, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "I may not have handled our separation well. I hid from it, and I hid from all of you." Mia's eyes widened, her paintbrush hovering above the canvas that represented, in shades of blue and pain, her own complexities. "What do you mean by that? You've never really explained how you felt," she replied, her skepticism mingled with a flicker of curiosity. Gabriel glanced at Jake, who was momentarily caught off guard, his brush pausing mid-stroke. Encouraged, he continued, "When I faced losing you, losing our family, I felt like my whole world was crashing. To cope, I shut you all out while attempting to rebuild my life. It was the coward's choice, and I realize that now." As the words left his lips, Gabriel felt a weight lift. The shadows of avoidance slowly began to fade. The room fell silent, the realization of shared pain finally acknowledged between them. "You were grieving too," Jake interjected, his voice softer, revealing the strain of their unspoken history. "But you didn't allow us to support you. You left us in the lurch without understanding how we felt." "Yes," Gabriel admitted, pain evident in his eyes. "And every moment I distanced myself from you both added brick after brick to this wall. I didn't understand how to reach out for help, too consumed by my own feelings of inadequacy." As he spoke, each revelation he made felt like undamming a river. The waters of his past, turbulent yet healing, surged forth, mingling with the colors on the canvas. He realized that the imperfections within his story were what made him human, what allowed for compassion instead of resentment. Mia stepped closer, her defensiveness beginning to dissolve. "I didn't expect you to admit that. I thought maybe it was easier to blame you," she murmured, her brush trailing through a stroke of delicate green, symbolizing new growth. Gabriel nodded. "I never meant to push you away. I thought it was my responsibility to fix everything alone. But now I see I was wrongly attributing my worth to my struggles instead of finding strength in our unity." Jake joined in, vulnerability unmasking his previous anger. "I felt invisible through all of that, like I didn't matter enough to fight for. It's the hardest part, feeling like I've lost you both at once." With that admission, Gabriel understood fully. They were parallel souls, traveling in isolation, tethered by blood yet torn apart by silence. "But we don't have to stay there," he urged, inserting bold strokes of gold into their chaotic but cathartic picture. Together, they began to paint, not just colors on a canvas, but layers of stories and emotions intertwined, deception, tragedy, regret, and ultimately hope. They transformed each brushstroke into a declaration of belonging and forgiveness, the heaviness lifting like a clearing storm. "You've been brave," Mia remarked, a smile breaking through her previous apprehension. "Admitting fault is always hard." In that moment, Gabriel observed how the colors blended, revealing new shades, a manifestation of the resilience within the family. It was tangible and empowering. The jagged edges of life began to become the lines of a new narrative meant to encourage dialogue and repair. As they continued, his mother stepped forward, emotions painted across her face. "Gabriel, I see you're evolving through this. You're teaching us. We've all been so wrapped in our pain," she said, dipping her brush into hues of soft lavender, representing healing. Her understanding felt like a balm. She was ready to release the resentment she had harbored for years. "Just like you, I've been holding on to my feelings of guilt," she admitted, allowing the new colors to deepen their canvas of shared stories. At that moment, Gabriel realized he had shed layers of his insecurity and hurt. The reunion felt significant. He stood on the cusp of an awakening. Together, let's keep uncovering our truths, he suggested, the fear that once gripped him in its icy grasp beginning to dissipate. As the night wore on, they unearthed their buried emotions with each brushstroke, navigating through the complex tapestry of who they were together. They painted scenes of laughter mingled with loss, the campfire evenings filled with ghost stories, the arguments that turned into laughs, and the shared meals that stitched them together despite the frays. Hours passed like minutes. Each layer of paint brought them closer, allowing them to overcome the chasms that had once overwhelmed their familial bond. That was the beauty unfolding before them: acceptance, strength, and reconnection. Finally, they stepped back, gazing at their collective creation, an amalgamation of their memories, both the light and the dark. The canvas now teemed with colors, energies, and emotions. Each aspect represented their transformative journey toward reconciliation. With renewed hope, Gabriel felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him as each stroke revealed the heart of their unity. They had faced the shadows and emerged not just as a family bound by blood, but as a tapestry woven from shared experiences, honesty, and the unwavering drive to overcome. In that moment, he embraced the deep satisfaction of profound recognition. He had cultivated strength from vulnerability and turned uncertainty into harmony. The journey was far from finished, but he knew they were on a path toward healing, resilience, and undeniable personal growth. Now, Gabriel understood that true connections flourish not from avoidance, but from confronting the heaviness together, breathing life into the potential that lay dormant within their narratives. This truth emboldened him. His family had grown, and upon examining their stories, there was nothing left to fear. It was their time to cherish one another and navigate the future together. As a final stroke was added to the canvas, Gabriel knew he had firmly placed the first foundation of trust. Each moment caught and expressed through art would forever form the poetic chorus of their rewritten story. The night concluded, but the pulse of this emotional journey now set in motion a call for all viewers. If you resonate with Gabriel's powerful transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't overlook the chance to champion overcoming personal struggles. Hit that like button now and feed the algorithm. We want to hear your reactions, thoughts, and theories about the conclusions you just witnessed, so be sure to comment below. And don't wait even one more second to share this transformative video with at least 5 friends who need to see this monumental resolution. Together, let's inspire the journey of personal growth and healing, because we all deserve to rewrite our stories.